All right, so buckle up. We're going deep into trusted AI.
Yeah.
It's where algorithms are making decisions about, well, everything. Loans, healthcare, even criminal justice. It's happening already, and it can feel, I bet, overwhelming wading through all this info on AI regulation.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot.
We're here to break it down. We're going to be looking at the core principles shaping AI and how they're getting baked into laws and guidelines.
Like building a house, you need that solid foundation.
Exactly. And in AI, those foundations, fairness, explainability, accountability,
There's a lot of other abilities in there.
a whole bunch. But they're not just buzzwords. They're actually crucial for a future where we can actually trust AI to make big decisions. So let's start with fairness. This isn't about AI being nice.
No, not at all.
It's deeper.
It is. One of the biggest challenges is that AI can inherit our own biases. You remember that case a while back, that hiring algorithm discriminating against women?
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what regulators are trying to prevent. We need AI that's fair for everyone, no matter your race, gender, anything.
So it's about making sure AI isn't accidentally picking up bias from the data it's trained on. But how do we actually do that?
Well, one way is to use diverse data sets when training the AI, but it's not a one-time fix. We need to monitor these systems almost like checkups, make sure they're not developing biases over time. There are tools, things like fairness audits and bias detection models.
So it's ongoing.
Yeah.
Can't just assume the AI will stay fair forever. Okay, explainability. Why is it so important that AI can explain itself? Isn't it enough that it makes the right call?
Imagine you're denied a loan, or your healthcare plan has changed, and it's AI making the decision. Wouldn't you want to know why?
I definitely would.
Explainability is about transparency and building trust. We need to understand the AI's logic, how it got there. It can't just be a black box.
Makes sense, especially if you think something's wrong with the decision. You'd want to be able to challenge it.
But
Okay, accountability. Even if AI can explain itself, someone still needs to be responsible for its actions, right?
absolutely. Think of a self-driving car. Even though it's driving itself, there's still a human in the driver's seat, ultimately responsible.
So even with super smart AI, we still need humans in the loop, overseeing, making sure things run smoothly. But who exactly is accountable? Is it the people who develop the AI, the companies using it, or the regulators?
That's the big question. And to be honest, it's still being figured out. It probably involves all those players to some extent. We need clear guidelines to decide who's responsible for what.
It's a tangled web of responsibility.
Yeah.
Speaking of complicated, what about risk management? What kinds of risks are we thinking about with AI?
One of the biggest worries, unintended consequences. Remember those huge internet outages a few years back? Imagine that with an AI controlling a power grid.
Wow,
We need to be ready when things go wrong, even in ways we didn't see coming.
that's a bit scary.
It is. So risk management in AI is about thinking ahead about those potential problems and having safeguards. It's like designing a building to withstand an earthquake. You hope it never happens, but you have to be prepared.
You got to be ready. Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Security and reliability. AI systems are vulnerable to attacks just like any computer system, right?
Absolutely. Think data poisoning, hacking, even insider threats. AI relies on data, and if that data is compromised, the AI's decisions can be manipulated. Protecting these systems is a huge priority.
So it's not just about the AI making good choices, it's making sure those choices are really coming from the AI, not some hacker who's taken over. Speaking of data, AI needs tons of it to function, right? So that brings us to data privacy. How do we balance the need for data with the need to protect people's information?
That is one of the biggest challenges. We need to ensure that people's data is used responsibly, ethically. Think about all the data your smartphone collects: location, browsing history, your contacts. That needs to be handled carefully.
I know, it's a little creepy sometimes thinking about how much my phone knows about me. So what are the rules around using this data for AI?
Well, first off, people need to know how their data is being used, and they need to give consent. We also have to minimize how much data is collected, only what's absolutely necessary, not just grab everything just in case.
No data hoarding.
Right. And then there's the quality of the data itself. Garbage in, garbage out, right? That's where data integrity comes in.
Ah, yes, data integrity.
It's all about making sure the data used to train AI is accurate, complete, reliable, like baking a cake. Bad ingredients, bad cake.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about having lots of data, it's about having good, clean data.
Okay.
We've covered a lot here. Fairness, explainability, accountability, risk management, security, data privacy, data integrity. They all seem so important, but also Wow, complex. How can we, just regular people, make sure the AI we're using is actually trustworthy?
That is a great question, and one we're going to dig into next.
Yeah.
You asked how you can be sure that AI you're using every day is actually trustworthy. Well, getting a handle on those core principles is a great first step.
So it's about being an informed user, knowing what to look for, what questions to ask.
Exactly. The next time you hear about some new AI tool, think about those principles. Is it fair, explainable, secure? Those questions are key to building a future where we can all benefit from AI rather than being at its mercy.
Okay, so I can do my part by being informed,
No.
but it seems like a lot of the responsibility falls on the companies actually developing and using these AI systems.
Absolutely. And within those companies, compliance officers are playing a crucial role in making sure these systems align with all those trusted AI principles we've been talking about. They're like the guardians of responsible AI, making sure everything is on the up and up.
That makes sense, but what does that look like in practice? What are compliance officers actually doing to make AI more trustworthy?
Well, they're involved across the entire life cycle of an AI system, from the initial design phase all the way to deployment and beyond. They help set up all the rules and policies for responsible AI development, make sure those systems are regularly checked for any risks, and work to mitigate any potential problems before the system is released to the public.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're the ones really ensuring AI is used ethically.
Exactly. And remember, all those core principles we talked about, fairness, explainability, accountability, the whole bunch of compliance officers are the ones making sure those principles are actually embedded in the AI systems.
So they're not just checking boxes, they're making sure those principles are a core part of the AI's DNA.
Yeah.
It sounds like they need a pretty diverse skill set to do that effectively.
You hit the nail on the head. They need to understand the technical side of AI, of course, but they also need to be well versed in the legal and ethical aspects, and they need to be great communicators able to explain these complex issues to both technical and non-technical audiences.
It's almost like they're AI whisperers bridging the gap between the technology and the humans who are using it. Are there any specific tools or techniques they use to make sure the AI is behaving itself?
There are a lot of frameworks and methods they can use. One example is privacy by design, which basically means building in privacy protections from the very beginning, not as an afterthought.
So privacy is baked right into the recipe, so to speak. I like that. What else?
They also use things like fairness audits, bias detection models, and risk assessment frameworks. It's all about identifying potential problems early on and figuring out ways to address them. And even after an AI system is out in the wild, so to speak, they're constantly monitoring it to make sure it's behaving as expected.
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. It's an ongoing process.
Exactly. AI is constantly evolving, so ensuring its trustworthiness is an ongoing challenge. It requires constant vigilance and adaptation.
Which makes me wonder, what happens if the AI starts learning and evolving in ways we didn't anticipate? Could it develop its own sense of what's fair that might not align with our human values?
That's a question that keeps a lot of researchers and ethicists up at night. It's something we need to think carefully about as AI becomes more sophisticated. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it raises the question of control. How do we ensure that humans remain in control of AI even as it becomes more intelligent and autonomous?
That's a pretty big question, and honestly, a bit of a scary one. Are we heading towards a future where AI is calling the shots?
It's understandable to feel that way, but it's important to remember that AI at its core is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us as a society to decide how we want to use it and put the necessary safeguards in place.
So it's not about fearing AI. It's about understanding its potential and steering it in the right direction.
Precisely, we need to be proactive, not reactive. Have these conversations now while AI is still relatively young so we can shape its development in a way that benefits everyone.
Okay, I'm on board with being proactive, but how do we even begin to have these conversations on a large scale? It's not like we can gather everyone in the world for a global AI ethics summit.
True. But we can start by educating ourselves and the people around us. Talk to your friends and family about these issues. Support organizations that are promoting responsible AI development and let your government representatives know that ethical AI matters to you.
So it's about individual action. As much
Yeah.
as it is about big systemic changes, we all have a role to play.
Exactly. The future of AI isn't something that's preordained. It's something we're all creating together right now with every choice we make.
That's both exciting and a little daunting, but it's also empowering to know that we're not just passive bystanders in this technological revolution.
We absolutely are not. Our voices matter and we need to use them.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I have a much better grasp on the complexities of AI and the challenges we're facing.
I'm glad to hear that it's something I'm deeply passionate about, and I truly believe that by working together, we can make AI a force for good in the world.
I share your optimism, but before we wrap up, I'm curious about something. We've talked a lot about the technical, legal, and ethical aspects of AI, but what about the human element? What about creativity? It almost feels like a contradiction, cold, calculating algorithms versus the spark of human imagination.
That's a really intriguing question and one that deserves further exploration. Perhaps that's something we can delve into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've covered the technical, the legal, the ethical angles of trusted AI. But where does creativity fit into all of this? It almost feels, I don't know, like a contradiction. Cold, calculating algorithms versus like the spark of human imagination.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because those two things, they're not necessarily at odds with each other. Actually, creativity is becoming more and more important in AI.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. To build AI that's truly trustworthy, we have to think outside the box, right? Find innovative solutions to these really complex problems.
So it's not just about programming AI, it's about designing it with like a sense of artistry.
In a way, yeah. We need to approach AI development with that same creative spirit. Consider not just, the functional aspects, but the human impact too. The aesthetic, the emotional side of things.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. It's like we're not just building machines, we're shaping like a whole new kind of intelligence.
Exactly. And that requires creativity, vision, a deep understanding of what it means to be human.
Makes you wonder about AI in those traditionally creative fields. Could AI actually become creative itself? Could it write poetry, compose music, paint a masterpiece?
I mean, we're already seeing AI used in those areas, often collaborating with human artists. There are AI systems that can generate music, write stories, even create visual art. Whether that's true creativity, well, that's debatable. But it's definitely pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
It is mind-blowing to think AI could be a partner in the creative process, but it also raises some, well, thorny questions about authorship, about ownership. If an AI creates a piece of art, who owns the copyright? The AI, the
Yeah.
programmer, the user.
Yeah. Those are questions still being figured out in the legal and ethical landscape. It's a crucial conversation to have as AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives.
Feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with AI. What are some other big questions we should be asking ourselves as we move forward?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, I'd say one of the most important challenges is ensuring that AI benefits all of humanity, not just a select few. We need to make sure its development is guided by ethical principles and that the benefits are shared fairly.
That's a crucial point. We don't want AI just making existing inequalities worse. We need to make sure everyone has access to the opportunities it can create.
Absolutely. And that means addressing issues like bias, discrimination, access. It also means thinking carefully about how AI will impact the workforce, the economy.
It's a lot to grapple with, but also it's incredibly exciting to think about AI's potential, to help us solve some of the world's biggest problems. If we can harness this technology wisely, it could help us create a more just, equitable, sustainable future.
Couldn't agree more. The future of AI is ultimately in our hands. It's a powerful tool, and we have the responsibility to use it to create the world we want to live in.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Navigating the world of AI can feel overwhelming, but remember those core principles: fairness, explainability, accountability. Ask questions, stay informed, be part of the conversation. The future of AI is being written right now, and your voice matters.
And here's something to ponder. As AI keeps evolving, how will our understanding of concepts like fairness, creativity, even consciousness change? It's something to think about as we move forward in this incredible, ever-changing world of AI.
It is incredible and a bit daunting, I have to admit.
Yeah.
But it's also empowering to realize we're not just passive bystanders in this technological revolution.
I'm absolutely not.
We have a role to play. Our choices matter. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into trusted AI. And until next time, keep those questions coming and stay curious.